always had this fire that I wanted to do something great. Whatever I put my name on, whatever I signed my signature to, I always wanted to be valuable. I was never afraid, oh, well, Alicia doesn't know. I always wanted to give effort. Even working in sports, I was the last to leave. And I did that because I enjoyed what I was doing.
Welcome to the Curious Corner, where we unravel the stories behind our guests through the lens of curiosity. In today's episode, I'm joined by Alicia Marinelli, who has previously spent time working in the NBA, the NHL, baseball, and cycling. Alicia is the founder and CEO of Living Sport. As we kick off today's episode, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our guest, Alicia Marinelli. Thank you so much for coming on today, Alicia. How are you doing?
Ben, I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me. Always good to catch you. We haven't seen each other in a while because we're so far apart, but really great to be here.
Great to have you with us. For those tuning in for the first time, maybe they haven't heard of you before, could you please give a brief intro into who you are and what you do?
Yes, you got it. So, hey everyone, I'm Alicia Marinelli. I am a sports gal. I grew up playing sports and now I own a business. So, I'm a founder CEO at a business called Living Sport, which consumes most of my time these days. But basically, what I do is travel with college age students around the world, working sporting events to provide them experiences and networking through sport. So, founded this company about 7 years ago after working in the sport industry for some big teams in the NBA, the New York Knicks, the NHL, the New York Rangers. I worked for the Phillies and the Washington Nationals affiliate, and then got into the sport of cycling. So that's kind of my background, and I wanted to take all of that and provide my knowledge to students that are up and coming in the sports world.
Amazing. Yeah, a lot of sports and just a lot of different experiences. And I'd love to go back to a start in early on in your career and to know if there was something that you felt that you had to learn the hard way, but then stuck with you.
Well, there's a lot of things I had to learn the hard way, especially as a first time entrepreneur, business owner, figuring this all out. There's not really a book that says, "Hey, here's how you do it." We have YouTube now, which is really good. But I think getting the courage to start a business, leave a full-time job with a steady income, and put all your eggs in that basket, and you're basically banking and betting on yourself. So when I did that, I had a lot to learn. I still have a lot to learn about business. I'm 7 years in, and life is just always about learning. So I think that was one of the hard things is, I made some bad decisions, lost some money here and there, right? And wish I could take that back, but it's all a part of the learning game. And I think that's my biggest learning lesson is just that.
I guess that whole moment of starting your own business must have been very stressful and yeah, just figuring everything out. That moment of just deciding to take the leap of faith and you know what, I'm going to start my own business.
So here's what I did. No lie. I had a full-time job working in events. So anybody that works in the event field knows that you work over 40 hours because you work in the office during the day. And then at night, you're working the events. On the weekends, you're working the events. So what I did to start Living Sport is I did it on not only the nights and the weekends, but I would go and interview students during my lunch hour too. So I literally didn't have a break whatsoever because I was so passionate about what I was doing. And even when I first started Living Sport, it consists of 10-day programs started internationally. So I would actually take my vacation days from my full-time job to go and work these programs that anybody who has traveled overseas, it's a lot. Like you're constantly going and I'm basically working. So yeah, it was putting a lot of time and effort into it. But what I'm learning is when you own your own business, you're always on. And that's what you have to do to keep things rolling forward.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess even before your business, like you said, you spent a lot of time in the NBA, the NHL, baseball. And I know it was, as you mentioned, cycling that really, I guess, opened up the gateway in terms of opportunities to travel, experiencing a lot of, I guess, new countries and cultures for the first time. I'm sure you learned a lot about yourself during that time, but is it a standout thing that you feel like you took away from those experiences?
I try to be where my feet are. That's my biggest thing is be where you are in the moment. And I would say that's what I do every time I travel. I really try to soak up where I am. A lot of people try to get me to answer what's your favorite city or what's your favorite program. I'm like it just all depends. There's different factors that go into everything including the company you're with, right? All of that is factor in. But what when I travel, I take in the city, the country for what it is, right? Every place is unique. Everything, if you Google, hey, you have to check out here. Hey, this is what they're known for. I like to do all of that stuff and I like to find the hidden gems too. So, talking to locals is a big thing and finding out where you have to go off the beaten path. But yeah, I think a big thing about me too is I started late. So I don't believe at age, I started my business right after I turned 30. So I didn't have a passport at age 30. I just didn't travel outside of the States at all. So when I started in the sport of cycling, that's when I started traveling. And now I'm promoting to travel through sport, through your passion, through growing your career and your network from myself, which is something I had to learn later in life. So those are the things I like to teach younger people. And one of a mentor of mine, David Meltzer, he says that his big thing is he pays the dummy tax and he wants to provide that knowledge forward because he doesn't want other people to have to pay the dummy tax. So I think in some ways I do that as well.
Yeah, I love that. And like, I know that was kind of like a big reason behind you wanting to start living sport in the first place, right? As you know, as you said, you'd gone away, you'd had these like amazing experiences and insights traveling, working abroad in these different countries, and then felt that you'd got this like knowledge and just kind of want to share it with the others and really empower, I guess, younger kids and really essentially built what you wanted as if you were like a student again, right? So yeah, like it's amazing. And maybe you could touch on a bit more on like how I guess a bit more into like what living sport does and how it helps young professionals to enter the world of sports.
For sure, this is a really good segue. You said right there, sharing knowledge. Now, you could share knowledge in a bunch of different ways. What we do, and I think the importance of what I'm doing, is we actually take education outside of the classroom and place students where they need to be to get that hands-on experience. And it's not only experience, it's the vibe of the atmosphere. It's meeting new people, all of that. So in short, we are a 10-day international sport business program that is anchored by partnering with an event. So whether it be the Super Bowl we did in February, in November we were in Thailand, we partnered with Ocean Man, which is an open water swim event. We've done the MLB All Star Game, the NHL All Star Game. We go to London to do the Royal Windsor Triathlon. Whatever it may be, we partner with an event. The students work, they get actual hands on experience. And then around that event, we build out conferences, meet and greets, stadium tours, anything to do with sport and sport business and meeting and developing relationships with people. That's what we surround ourselves by. And of course, food and all of the culture items as well.
Yeah, love that. And yeah, like I said, for a lot of these students, it's the first time, um, maybe like properly leaving their hometown or like leaving the US in general. And, you know, you're essentially thrown into a brand new environment, which can be seen scary with people you don't know. And it's kind of a case of, you've got to then learn the knowledge and volunteer or whatever it is, but then also you got to fit in with these people for 10 days. That experience of just like meeting new people and like say everyone comes from different walks of life. But at the end of it, they all kind of have this, I guess, common interest within sports, and wanting to be professionals within that industry. So yeah, I'm sure it must be like fascinating to watch, some of these students that come in on day one and then they leave on day 10 and they're like a completely different person, or, just to see that development. And I guess that's a very big rewarding part of that process.
Just 10 days could really, I mean, just one day could change somebody's life. We've jam packed 10 days of those same sort of style days, life changing, life inspiring, meeting people, testing yourself. We jam pack that into 10 days. And at the end, the biggest thing I see from these students as far as growth is they leave with confidence. You mentioned prior, some of them are going on an airplane for the first time. Some of them are traveling without their parents for the first time. Some of them have never been outside of their classroom or did things away from their friends. This is a challenge on multiple levels. And for those people who travel with us, I stand up and give them a standing ovation because it's really courageous. We're on the curious corner right here. To be curious in life and go out there and do things that will enhance you, because the biggest thing is, right, growth happens when you push yourself outside of your comfort zone. So that's a part of curiosity, that's a part of growth, and that's what our program does. It takes people who strive and have this desire to be great and do greater, and we actually give them access to that. We package it up into a nice little program that they don't even have to really think about anything besides their performance and meeting people. And then they leave with the confidence that they know they could do anything that they put their mind to.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, as you said, after that, you come back and you have such like a you've expanded your comfort zone and you have like new perspectives and new thoughts and new ideas and yeah, it was really just like empowering, I think, for those like young students that want to get into a lot of sports.
One of our London students from last year, she actually now goes to school in London. I forget the school name, but she is living in London because she went to London on our program. And now she's there for at least a year because next year in June 2025, which will be out there for our program, she'll be there.
Wow, that's a very strong commitment. Like, I don't know, living in another country, that's bold, but that's amazing to hear.
What do you think about living in America? I'm going to turn this on you a little bit. Like, what are your thoughts? Where would you go?
Wow, I'm being played a reverse Uno card right now. Where would I go? I think New York is kind of like the probably the one that everyone would say, but I think the reason why I guess New York is quite similar to London in terms of like there's just stuff always happening. So yeah, I guess as some of us young, it'd be good to have those experiences, but also I guess just a lot of people that I know in and around New York, and there's a lot of people there that I call friends and just people that I know. So that's probably the obvious answer. After that, I'm not really sure. So yeah, let's go with New York for now.
Got you. Okay. 10-4. Good choice.
Yeah. If someone right now is listening to this and maybe they themselves want to pursue a career in sports, what do you think's like the I guess like what advice do you have for them where they can stand out themselves and like have this like breakout moment into the industry they want to work in?
Yeah. There's so many people that want to work in sports. There's so many sports fans out there. You really have to invest in yourself and gain experience. And along with experience is going out there and volunteering when you're a freshman in school. Don't wait until you're a senior to do that one internship that is required as a part of the curriculum, right? That's not really going to get you anywhere. I talk to students that are already starting right out of high school. In fact, I went to Seattle, Washington last year. I took a group of about 25, maybe 30 students to the MLB All-Star game. I had an 18-year-old just graduated high school. I don't even think he stepped on a college university campus yet. And he was a rock star. He was an absolute rock star. So, my point in saying this is get experience, refine your skills, understand that relationships are the game. The more people you know and the more people you form really great bonds with can help you in the industry, not only in business, but sports as well. People who have worked in New York are now in Los Angeles, who are now in London. People move all over the place. So, I would say start now, start early, volunteer, work for free, and gain that experience, which then confidence also comes with experience. And the more experience you get, you also then can provide more value to a future employer. And ultimately, when you're working for somebody, that's what you're doing. You have to provide value to them. So that is what I would say about getting into sports. Relationships are everything, and don't just be a fan. Understand the business behind it and the long hours. You have to be able to handle that. Some days, some weeks are a lot. So I know you guys don't really have baseball over there, but some baseball homestands, we used to work 26 days straight, day and night in minor league baseball. So yeah.
That's yeah, that's intense. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if we, I guess, like transition a bit into more of the business side of things, like feels like you've always kind of had this hardworking mentality of going above and beyond, even in the earliest of stages of your career. I was wondering, like, where do you think that like came from? Like, were you just naturally like born with that, or is there like someone you look up to where like they were hardworking that like rubbed off on you, or like, yeah, where do you think that hardworking mentality comes from? Because like, especially nowadays, like I think it's harder and harder to find those like young kids that, like you say, are willing to go above and beyond and like stay past 5 p.m. To put in the extra hours. So yeah, I was curious to know that.
It's funny. Like that's a great question, and I guess it all goes back to my family, right? Your environment really does a lot for you, and a lot of my family members, they were laborers, right? They were out there working in the cold or working in factory type situations. And then, of course, I would see them come home and around the house, constantly working and doing things around the yard. And I just think your environment can affect that, but also there has to be something in you. So I always had this fire, I tell people. I always had this fire that I wanted to be and do something great. I just didn't know what that meant, right? So for me, I just kept doing and doing. And every time there was like, hey, Alicia, would you like to do this? Yes. Of course, if it was anything to do with sports, my hand always went up and I always went right to the sports thing. But I just think I always wanted to, whatever I put my name on, whatever I signed my signature to, I always wanted to be valuable. I never wanted someone to look and say, Alicia, she didn't even try. Knowledge is funny. It's okay if people don't know. Like I was never afraid, oh well, Alicia doesn't know. Well, Alicia could learn, right? But effort is something you can control. And I think I always wanted to give effort. And even working in sports, right? I was the last to leave. And I did that because I enjoyed what I was doing. So when you love what you're doing, it time, melts away. And I personally thought it was really cool when I would leave a stadium and I would actually set the security alarm for the whole stadium. It's like, well, this is pretty cool, right? Like I am in charge of so no one comes in and like robs this stadium here. But yeah, that's what I would say. I think hard work is pays dividends at the end, and I think I'll always be working towards something just because that's the type of person I am.
I love that. Yeah, as you said, like hard work, just like compounds over time. So if you're willing to go above and beyond consistently, then you might not see it straight away, but 5, 10 years time, you're going to start noticing the difference. So yeah, love that. I guess like really find it fascinating. You're like such an interesting intersection between sports and business, which are both like very fiercely competitive industries. But I know you're a big believer in cheering for others instead of tearing each other down. So I was wondering how having that mentality within those fiercely competitive industries do you feel has allowed you as a person to thrive?
Yeah, hey, don't get me wrong, I love to win, right? I'm a competitor through and through. But there is winning without tearing somebody down, right? If I take an L, that means, well, maybe my work wasn't up to par. Maybe I need to get better. And maybe the right gal or girl won, right? Whether it be I was in competition for business or I was in competition for something else. I had a proposal and somebody else did their proposal better than mine and won the job. I think, that's what was supposed to be, right? I'm a big believer in listen, put effort, prepare, do everything you can. But what is meant to be will be. And that's just the way I kind of think, right? Prepare yourself. Don't show up not prepared. But then if somebody else gets that job, gets that promotion, gets that new client, yeah, be happy for them. I mean, okay, here's a sports reference. I am a sports gal. I keep saying this. So I'm talking to you guys, which, football means soccer to me, but I'm going to talk about American football right here. Back, I think like 5 years ago, the New York Giants drafted my favorite football player. He went to Penn State University. He was a running back with the number 2 overall pick, Saquon Barkley, who was from my nearby hometown, was drafted by the Giants. I like almost cried. I was so mad that the Giants got them because I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan and they're competitors. Fast forward 6 years later, I'm not sure how many years later. Saquon, big news, breaking news in the sports world this week, just signed with the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, right? So it's kind of just like, man, like here we are years later, and what I wanted as a sports fan came true. And why I'm saying that is just because I remember vividly being so mad when he was drafted at number 2 to competitors' team. And that is why I just think the process has to play out. It's all about the journey. And yeah, I think you could go nuts thinking about what if this happens? And you could go nuts just constantly comparing yourself to others.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Something you've said in my past is get comfortable being uncomfortable. So, what was the last thing you felt uncomfortable about? And how did pushing through that discomfort ultimately lead to personal growth or positive change in your life?
So I feel uncomfortable every day of my life. So owning a business, being an entrepreneur, constantly learning is a tough gig, right? You're putting out fires, you're figuring things out. So in business, as a business owner, yeah, that's how I feel. I'm uncomfortable every day, and that is a good place to be, right? Being comfortable is actually your worst enemy because you're not growing whatsoever. So even though there's days where I'm like, oh man, can I just get a couple hours where I could chill and I don't have anything to do? When I remotely try to do that in the first 5 minutes, I'm like, I don't like doing this. There's so much I could be doing right now. Right. So that's what I would say about that. I feel uncomfortable every day. And I like that about myself. And I'll say this, I grew up as a shy girl, young girl, shy. My brother talked a lot. My mom talked a lot. And I was just always like, man, why do I have to be shy? I see how they're developing a bunch of relationships and strong bonds with people. And here I just don't have anything to say. So one day I woke up and I was just like, I'm not going to be shy anymore. So I just started down that road of opening up, and then my world changed. When you start to talk to people and tell people about yourself and who you are and really listen to them as well, tell their story, things start to change. You develop relationships, things start to come together, opportunities come your way, and you just feel like a bigger, greater person. So I feel like that was a big getting uncomfortable in life that has helped me now. Now, as an entrepreneur, I can meet with anybody. There's no nerves. In fact, just about 2 weeks ago, I sat in the office of our idol, Gary Vaynerchuk. And, that was actually I was very nervous there. Even though I met him a bunch of times and I've played pickleball with him, something about being in his office that was like kind of like a movie set to me because we see it on social media so much. I was like, oh my God, how did this get to me? But being uncomfortable is good. And the right people will help you through that.
And I feel like it's almost good in a way to have like people say that they don't necessarily like pressure, but I feel like you need a bit of pressure, which is like healthy pressure, right? Like you say, it can makes you grow and push outside your comfort zone. And if you don't have that, then you're just in your comfort zone. Like you're not growing.
It keeps you accountable.
Yeah. Okay. I want to go into the world of content now, and I almost want to start with this, but I had to include it at some point. Was that Alicia is the type of person that when she came to London last year, turned up with an American football and a microphone, and we just spent like an hour in the streets of London at night time, just like recording content. I felt like I had to throw that in there. As you said, you just mentioned like you felt like you grew up being a bit of a shy person, but like now, and I felt this when you came to London, was like we're like in the group together and you're like encouraging the content and like start speaking into a microphone, like say something, which I absolutely love because you're pushing me outside of my comfort zone, and that's just like a very big transition. So I guess a lot of people struggle, I guess, with speaking, whether it's like over a recording or podcasts, video. And I know it's kind of something you also push for a lot within your living support programs of making them uncomfortable, pushing the content side more. But like from being a shy person to now being the one where you're encouraging people to start making content and get in front of a camera, like what would you say to an individual who maybe themselves feels shy, but they a bit hesitant to put themselves out there publicly through content?
Yes, it's going to be hard at first because it's uncomfortable. It's maybe not natural to do. But if that's something you want to do, you just push through. You don't have to say everything perfect. Every take doesn't have to be perfect. Every piece of hair doesn't have to be in place, right? I stopped worrying about that stuff because ultimately, how we started this podcast before we hit record, we were just talking a little bit and catching up. And Ben, you said something to me like, hey, you're all over. You're here and you're there. And you know that through social media, right? So I feel like what social media and recording content has done for me is it brought people into my life, and people could keep up with me and catch up with me and feel like they know a lot about me, even though I'm here running a business, oftentimes very extremely busy with work. But content has become my outlet to keep in touch with people. And sometimes I don't even realize that. It's not until conversations like what we had. So, anybody who is shy to record content, you just have to do it and do it. And then, strive to get better at it and just not care what people think. That's it. Most people will look at it and think, wow, I wish I was doing that too. I wish I was putting out content. Oh, wow, they came a long way, right? So, yeah, it could be scary. Just do it. That's the best advice that I've heard multiple times is just start. If you want to do it, you are in control of who you want to be, what you want to do. So just go out there and do the stuff you want to do.
100%. And yeah, like as you said, um, it's just a case of putting in the reps. Like the only way you're going to get better is by putting in the work and yeah, practicing essentially. Like no, you're not going to probably get views straight away, or like don't even worry about the numbers, right? But just put out content that is like meaningful and important to you. And like I say, maybe it's just you're making content because then that's you highlighting your experiences, you're telling your story. Like ultimately through content, your people, your friends, like your audience of people that want to listen to you, they're going to be the ones that find you. So all you have to do is like put out content consistently, and then your people that align with your values or your interests, you don't have to find them; they're going to find you.
Yeah. And even if it's one person that starts following your podcast or starts liking your social media content, that is one person that maybe you could develop a very strong bond with, right? Maybe 1,000 people do. but still you're only looking for a common, like, close people. And I guess what's your goal would be the question that I would start with. What is the goal? If your goal is to have this huge following and become an influencer, then you have to have some strategy behind it. But if it's just to put out content to get better at it and just be relevant in today's age and not be a major influencer but get involved with things, I would say talk about a subject matter that's super important for you. We keep trying to get off of the sports subject here, but it just keeps coming back because it's such a big part of my life, and I can't not talk about it. I cannot physically not do it. That is who you get when you get Alicia Marinelli. And I think being proud of that is what helped me kind of continue forward and get comfortable, right? I'm the first one to admit I'm not the huge girly girl type of girl, right? And sometimes the females on social media get some rap because they have to be put together, they have to do whatever, but I'm sitting right here, I'll do it. Like, I'm a hat girl. I love some hats and baseball caps. I don't have them handy right now, but be who you are and be proud of who you are. I think that's the number one thing to happiness in life. And that comes with social media content. Because if you're not happy with yourself, that's not going to portray, and you're going to care about what people say or the likes you don't get. Do things you want to do because you want to do them. So before you start the content, think about what it is you want to talk about. And then just focus on that and be passionate about that. And that goes for anything in life. I teach students that travel with me, be passionate about what you do. Don't just show up and give half effort. Going back to effort, right? Effort is the one thing that you can control.
Absolutely. Good things happen when you put yourself out there. Can you describe a moment when putting yourself out there opened doors to a new experience, perspective, or opportunity that you might not have otherwise encountered?
Listen, it goes back to one of the biggest moments in my life involves how I met you. And that is through NFTs and Gary Vee's project called V Friends. I'm a Gary Vee fan, and followed him on social media, and he's telling people at that time, "Hey, I'm doing this project. It's on the blockchain. You have to buy Ethereum." I'm like, "What is this? What do I have to do?" So I was one of those that followed the documents that they put out by a T. And I kind of just figured it out. It was my first time buying this NFT. And I didn't really understand what I was doing, but I tell Gary this all the time, that he's like the one person that I will like follow anything he says to do, because he's earned that trust from people like myself. And if there's anybody in the world that I was going to do that with, it's a Gary Vaynerchuk. So getting into NFT space wasn't about NFTs, wasn't about blockchain. What all of us are realizing is it put us into this community of people from all over the world that are changing our lives and trajectory of our lives every day. So that was one of the biggest things I got involved with that totally changed life for me. And I've met people, and all it takes is one person to change your life. And that is what V Friends did for me. And that is how we met.
Yeah, I'm absolutely the same. And ironically, like it is similar to drawing parallels to what Living Sport does with its programs, whereby you're, placed in a new environment, you know, maybe never been to America before, for example, and there's people like you don't know anyone basically, but there's like kind of common interests or like values within there, and it's just a case of like nurture and grow those relationships. And then, like as you said, now we're a community, developed relationships with people, and we've kind of all like had some kind of influence in other people's lives in some shape or form. And like someone I know we're both, I guess we have good relationship with is Ezra Fuller, and he was the first guest on the Curious Corner, and essentially it was him that through like a couple of conversations in his newsletter was what really got me out of my state of not being able to make the next step and like leave home and move to London. So like that's like a massive influence. Like moving like out, leaving my parents' house, moving to a big city. And there's also like smaller things as well, but as you said, I think something I don't know if you personally have this, but something I have is that I feel like through this community now, that because everyone is like growing and doing their thing, they're running their business, they're doing content, they're doing fitness, whatever it is, like I'm constantly like inspired, and it constantly keeps me accountable and makes me want to continue like, putting in the effort. And on a day where I feel like I'm not feeling it, my mind goes to, the next time I'm going to see all these people, I don't want to be the person whereby I haven't done anything and everyone else around me is like grown and I'm the one that hasn't put in the work.
What I would say, first of all, shout out to the Bleeding Edge, which I get that newsletter too. He's doing a good job. But I think the people that in our community that have followed Gary Vee, Gary puts out strong values, right? So why we get along as people is because we share those same values. And then his tenacity, his work drive, like a lot of entrepreneurs will follow him. A lot of content creators will follow him. He's a doer. That guy doesn't sleep, but he loves what he does. And that's what he's promoting to us. So the community, we come together with that shared vision of like, man, this guy is awesome. And we treat each other that same way because we know what he's about and we follow those same ideals and that same vision that he has. So yeah, it is really cool. And like you said, I love that. Like each year VCon happens and you don't want to show up being that person that didn't do anything greater. And not only that is people really root for you in this community. Like it's really authentic more than any other community that I've been in. And yeah, it's just a really cool thing to be a part of. And it's really cool because I think everybody in that community will say how it's impacted and changed their life for the better.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Okay, final question. If you could go back in time, what would you tell young Alicia, who, maybe is a bit shy, but ultimately dreams of working in sports and traveling the world?
I would tell her just go at it. If anybody could do it, you can do it. Don't be afraid. Move away from home. Do side hustles to make money to get yourself where you want to be. But honestly, Ben, I think I'm doing that exact advice, right? I'm figuring all of this out. I'm building living sport and I'm impacting people through an avenue that I love, which is sport. So I'm still on the journey myself. And I think I will kind of always be on some sort of journey because we have this one life and a lot to do. But I would tell young Alicia that you're going to have to figure some things out and you're going to have to push yourself, but nothing good comes easy. So work hard, be proud of the person you are, and treat people with respect. And I think that would be a good message.
Love it. Alicia, thank you so much for coming on today and for the discussion. For anyone listening, if you want to follow Alicia, all her socials will be linked below. And definitely make sure to check out Living Sport. Link to that will also be below to see the very cool and amazing experiences that they send their students out into a world of sports.
Yeah, we're coming to London June 1st through the 12th. If you are a student and want to be a part of our 10-day program in London, check us out at livingsport.com. We're now recruiting and would love to talk to you.
Amazing. All right. Thank you, Alicia.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, make sure to follow us, to leave a review, and to connect with us on our socials.